I think entertainment-wise, maybe the best Man United-Liverpool derby of my lifetime.
And it feels like what was looking like it was going to be one of the best championship teams ever, might not go up automatically. Hello and welcome back to Monday Vibes, everybody. We're here to talk about the latest results and biggest performances from the world of football, focusing specifically on a pretty epic weekend of FA Cup action. I'm joined by Mikey McCubbin. How are you, big man? Before we get into your shirt and the results,
Not bad.
How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've never been happier. Never been happier. Can't hear anything from the Liverpool fans right now. No, don't worry. This is a Man United fan channel. But I thought I would crack this out.
It's a great shirt.
It is a good shirt. Good friend.
Steve Bruce vibes whenever I see that one.
It is Steve Bruce vibes. It is literally. It's that season.
Yeah.
It's that season that Steve Bruce, won the league for United. Cantona's first shirt as well. All good Dukes. I mean, it was a great weekend of FA Cup action. I think it was, the FA Cup has been kind of continuously devalued over the years as a competition, and some years it doesn't necessarily live up to the kind of the magic of seasons past, but this round of quarter-final fixtures, especially the Coventry game, I mean the Chelsea game as well, was brilliant. Obviously the United-Liverpool game, probably I think entertainment-wise maybe the best Man United-Liverpool derby of my lifetime. So
wow.
30 years, I think. I maybe there were some games in the 90s that were particularly good, but in terms of both teams really going at it, end-to-end football, chaos. You can't really pick one out that matches up to it. The FA Cup alive and well. Give it the respect it deserves, because it is the original and best football competition.
Yeah, you've always actually, I think, been a pretty staunch defender of the FA Cup. I think you more than potentially anyone else at Football Daily.
Yeah, I've always
loved it.
Yeah, and also this season, look at Maidstone making it to the fifth round. Was that the first team from that level to make it to the fifth round in God knows how many years, maybe 50, 60 years? Forgive me if I'm wrong on that, actually, but it's the first time in a long, long time. It is proof that this competition. There's something about the FA Cup that just is brilliant. The fact that so many teams have to, every team in the country can play in it. There's just that magic does rear its head every now and then.
Should we get into the actual
it.
meat and gravy?
Meat and gravy? Meat and potatoes, isn't it?
Potatoes, the gravy. I was talking about the meat and potatoes on Sunday Vibes. Now it's just the meat and gravy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the goings on at Old Trafford, because it was a breathless game, an exhilarating encounter. I mean, where do you think the game was sort of won for United's perspective?
I mean, you could say where the game was won for United. You could also say where the game was lost for Liverpool, I think. I think, first of all, I think you do have to give credit to Ten Hag and United for starting as the better side. I think they were clearly the better side in the first 20, 30 minutes. That Scott McTominay goal was well deserved. I think Alejandro Garnacho, great work in the build up there. I also thought Rashford and Wan-Bissaka down the left looked really, really bright in that first half. At least those first 30 minutes, and Joe Gomez, as brilliant as he's been at left back this season, actually in a more, what you'd expect to be a more natural right back position for him, where until this season he had played a lot more football than at left back, was struggling in that first half. He grew into the game, but he was struggling in those first kind of 20 minutes. But even so, you did expect Liverpool to come back into this game. We've seen this with this United side. A lot of times actually against much better opposition this season, United have started perhaps a bit stronger, or at least have very much been in the game and then have wilted as the game goes on. Thinking that Arsenal game earlier in the season, thinking the City game in particular recently, which I thought was a particularly damning performance from United, and they did end up becoming defensively unstuck. McTominay had another good chance but hit it straight at Kelleher. I think that was a really good opportunity for United to pull away, but Wataru Endo, unlucky that his goal was disallowed. A really marginal offside in the build-up. Bruno Fernandes just not good enough in the build-up there, getting caught in possession. And that Liverpool press just really started to cause United problems. I'm not quite sure why they insisted on trying to keep on playing out from the back, especially at quite a crucial moment in the game. Jarrell Quansah then allowed to just glide into the box pretty much from his own halfway line to, in the build-up to McAllister's goal. Obviously a bit of an unlucky deflection off Kobbie Mainoo there, but nevertheless, Quansah should have been dealt with. I think it was Rashford in particular who didn't really, put in a challenge on him in the build-up to that. Bruno again dispossessed, close to his own goal. This time on the left flank, and by Joe Gomez in the build up to Salah's goal. Again, some
people were saying online that was a foul. I didn't think it was a foul.
No, I don't think it was. No, I mean it could have been.
It was challenge.
It was a robust challenge, but ultimately he just goes down too easily. Yeah, and Gomez gets the ball. And I think also, again, if Onana's unconventional save style isn't a thing, and he actually tries to put that round the post, then it doesn't fall into the fall into Salah's hand.
In this game, wasn't he, Onana?
There
felt like a couple of the goals, they were always he was a little bit unfortunate in a few instances, but it just felt.
Yeah, he was if it takes a deflection, then it's hard to blame the goalkeeper too much, especially with the Harvey Elliott one. That was such a huge deflection that took. So I don't want to be too harsh on him, but yeah, his style of saving will, there's always going to be a risk there, and that was the case with Salah's. I thought otherwise he was fairly solid in this game. Actually didn't have that much to do, if I'm honest. Didn't have that much, most of the saves that Onana was making in this game were at his near post, thinking Diaz in the first half, thinking Nunez in the second half. And I think this is where Liverpool lost the game. They had, especially in the second half, they were completely dominant. United's shape was more and more erratic. And United increasingly just didn't have a midfield. Scott McTominay, I thought had a brilliant game, but when he wasn't on the ball, I barely saw him. Kobbie Mainoo, again on the ball, had a great game, and defensively, did put in 5 tackles and interceptions, but you can't expect him to do all the work. Bruno was in and out of the game, I thought. It really was Liverpool's for the taking in the second half, and yet the decision making in the final third just was nowhere near good enough from what we expect of this Jurgen Klopp side. The amount of times that you saw Diaz free on the left, but whoever was in possession ended up putting the ball to the right, thinking kind of Cody Gakpo in extra time after he came on for Mo Salah. When Liverpool were breaking, not picking out the right player, or sending the ball to Harvey Elliott too early, not making the United defence commit before releasing players. I just think Liverpool did not carve out the opportunities that their possession in the United half actually deserved. You can talk about Liverpool being dominant, but United created 5 big scoring chances. Liverpool created just 1 all game. They had 25 shots. Wow. I just don't think, the cutting edge just wasn't there for Liverpool. And in some ways we were talking about that last week against Man City. I think if Liverpool had a bit more cutting edge in the final third, I know we don't want to get on Luis Diaz's back too much, but he did have a lot of chances fell his way against Man City. And they couldn't quite get it over the line, and they were punished. Some people
criticising Gakpo online. Jamie Carragher saying he looked like he thought the game was being played in slow motion, etc. I think it's a little bit harsh personally, because I think he's had reasonable impact in the minutes he's played. He's not really been a consistent starter this season. He's played a variety of different positions, but this definitely wasn't his best afternoon.
No, definitely not. And I mean, he comes on in 77 minutes for Mo Salah, who himself actually, did not have his best game. I think we're definitely yet to see Salah get back to his best following that injury. And that will be a major factor in what Liverpool can achieve from now on in the season. In some ways, this international break comes at a bit of a good time for them, as long as there are no more major injuries. But on 120 minutes, United had created 3.9 expected goals to Liverpool's 2.1. There was a period in that second half, or for most of that second half, where Liverpool really should have put the game to bed, and yet United ended up deserving to win this game. By the time Antony, got his shot off to make it 2-2 on 86 minutes, I think United had only had 3 shots in the box in the second half, and Liverpool had 9. And yet, Onana was only really troubled by a Nunez shot from an angle which he should have saved, and he did. So yeah, a big opportunity missed for Liverpool there, but and United were just, the risk just paid off for Ten Hag. I mean, you talk about kind of United's options off the bench. There was probably more. United probably had more options off the bench than they have done recently, at least because like Højlund was back, and there was at least there were kind of some attackers of note. Mason Mount, of course, on the bench as well. Christian Eriksen, who I think did look a bit lost when he came on, although he nearly did set up Rashford for the winner on 93 minutes. Otherwise, I thought it was really risky to take Mainu off.
Such a nice touch from Rashford.
Oh, such a good touch from Rashford. His touch has kind of got away from him recently, and how he doesn't put that away. But I mean, United's shape when, by the time Antony scores that equaliser, you've got Rashford up top, you've got Garnacho, McTominay, Diallo and Antony behind him, and then you've got Eriksen and Fernandes as the two deep-lying midfielders, and then you've got a back three of Dalot, Maguire and Lindelof. By the time, after Harvey Elliott makes it 3-2 to Liverpool, Lindelof, of course, brought off for Mount, so Harry Maguire, the only specialist centre-back left on the field. The back three then turns to Dalot, Maguire and Bruno, then Antony, Eriksen and McTominay deeper in midfield, Mount, Garnacho and Ahmad behind Rashford.
So he really did roll the dice for the win.
Absolutely rolled the dice. I mean, there was no midfield for a lot of the game, but especially in the second half, especially in those closing moments, it was just absolute chaos. But
what do you think the reception would have been like if you'd lost the game and you'd ended up with that sort of setup?
I actually don't. I don't think it would have actually been that bad, because at least something was being tried. You look back to that Man City loss 2 weeks ago, and it was just that the whole team just looked absolutely toothless. The team just looked out of ideas essentially in that game, whereas at least here, like, even if United had lost, like, there were at least some ideas happening. At least like United were countering fairly effectively, and I think we have to just give massive props to Alejandro Garnacho for that, because he was the absolute life and soul of the United attack. 6 shots on the day, only Nunez managed that many on the pitch. He was of course key to United's first 2 goals. Basically sets up Antony, although for some reason it's not registered as an assist, then set up Ahmad for the winner, created 5 chances, which was the joint most with Rashford. He had 15 touches in the opposition box, which I'm pretty sure there have been games this season where United as an entire team have not had that many touches in the opposition box, which says a lot about, some of United's form this season. But nevertheless, Garnacho, he has been United's star attacker this year, and at 19 years of age, that's really, really promising. Like, he looks like he's matured so much. Like, his ability to dominate a game, well, I say dominate, obviously second half was a bit quieter, but to stay in that game and remain, United's key player for a full 120 minutes, especially given last season, he was struggling when he wasn't coming off the bench. I think speaks volumes about, the development that he's made over the last 12 months. So yeah, I think Garnacho has to be the man of the match for me. McTominay also excellent, obviously got that goal, got the assist for Rashford, that lovely weighted pass for Rashford's equaliser in extra time. Had 3 shots himself, just on the ball, looked really, really good against what is a really good Liverpool midfield. Endo and McAllister, did not have bad games in this game, and yet McTominay was able to hold his own in possession in midfield. Mainu as well, brilliant. His footwork in the first half was just a joy to watch. Completed more dribbles than anyone else on the pitch. So I'd say that those are probably the players to shout out. And I think Rashford as well actually does deserve a bit of credit. Obviously missed that chance, but generally speaking, had a decent game. And, his finish under pressure in extra time was good. As for Liverpool, like I said, I think Endo was really strong. Again, 5 tackles and interceptions, controlled the game in that second half. Van Dijk and Quansah only had more touches than him. I think as well, Quansah as well, shout him out, because he just looks so comfortable in that Liverpool back line, doesn't he?
Season.
So I think we're going to just see him come on leaps and bounds over the next few months. But yeah, I think that's who I'd shout out for Liverpool. But yeah, we haven't even talked about the Ahmad goal. I was going to start with talking about that, but oh my God, shout out to Ahmad. What a tough season he's had. Out for the first half of the year with a knee injury. His last start for United, he hasn't started a game for United since May 2021.
It's been a long time.
Been a long, long time.
He's got quality. I've been telling you all, he's got quality. I didn't necessarily think that he was going to be able to make huge impact at United this year. I didn't think he was quite ready, having seen him at Sunderland last year. And then obviously picks up that injury in pre-season. Even since he's come back in January, Ten Hag's really very, very rarely used him. So to respond in that manner, showing great pace as well, because Garnacho, to keep it up with Garnacho and then go past him is quite a feat, because he's not rapid, Amad Diallo. He's more of a technical player. He's more similar to Antony in playing style than Garnacho. But an amazing finish as well,
especially after what was the first touch let him down as well.
Yes,
so then
and Bradley looks like he's kind of got him at one stage, and then he just about gets.
In some ways, the bad touch takes it away from Bradley. Like it's in some ways it kind of works in his favour in that
huge
sense.
Moment though, and for Amad Diallo to respond in that moment, to deny, Liverpool it's not a quadruple, a quadruple. 4 trophies.
You can't bring yourself to say it.
To deny them 4 trophies in Klopp's final year, I thought it was an amazing storyline. And, United, will it change the basis of their season? It gives them renewed hope that they can get something from this year. They needed
something.
They've got a good draw in terms of Coventry in the semi-final, who we'll get onto in due course. They will likely play Man City in the final. They go into that as huge underdogs. But there is still something to hang your hat on this year in terms of, in the hunt for Champions League football, hopefully, until the end, from your perspective. And potentially an FA Cup, well, definitely an FA Cup semi-final, potentially an FA Cup final. And for lots of the more maligned players in this squad, McTominay, Antony, over the last few years, to have game contributions and almost match-winning contributions as well, was really, really impressive. So well done to Ten Hag. Well done to Man United.
Also to get sent off as well for the shirts, for the off, and then to have his moment.
What was
with
his yellow
fans.
Card for?
The yellow card was just for like a fairly kind of cynical foul, earlier on. It was just it was fine. It gave him his little moment with the fans coming off at that moment. Did. But I'm not just very quickly. I'm not surprised why Jurgen Klopp was so fuming after the game. Like to lose the game like that. When Liverpool were lining up that corner, it's like, well, Van Dijk's going to score the winner here. For Elliott, who otherwise I think had a really good game, Harvey Elliott, for Elliott to then lose the ball in that moment, and
still don't think there's enough people back though.
There's not. There isn't.
Especially because Liverpool have had more experience of penalty shootouts than Man United, and winning penalty
big time,
shootouts recently.
I think Liverpool win that shootout most probably if it goes there. So. Yeah, I'm not surprised Klopp was. He absolutely lost his head at one of the reporters after the game, didn't he? But you saw him on the touchline at that moment, just absolutely seething. I would not have wanted to be in that dressing room afterwards. Because that's a really just a really deflating result for them when they've got the title running that they've got. But anyway, let's move on, because I feel like I've rambled on about really the greatest game that we've ever seen in football history. What a game that was.
There's plenty more to come though.
There is plenty more to come. Yeah, ridiculous amount. Where do we go next? Do we go Chelsea? Do we go Coventry?
Yeah, I think let's talk Chelsea, Leicester City, because it was more of the glamour tie, let's say, than Coventry, which we'll get onto in due course, because they do deserve their props as well. But Chelsea 4-2 win against Leicester City. That makes it sound quite comfortable, when at various points in this game it really wasn't. They went 2-0 up in this game. They then got pegged back to 2-2. And then Callum Doyle gets sent off, which does slightly change the game, because at that moment in time, momentum had really swung back. Even if Leicester weren't creating a number of opportunities, they were still sort of matching Chelsea in those sort of 10-15 minutes. Axel Disasi with a horrendous own goal as well. Really, really calamitous moment, sort of power shins it back. Yeah. And Robert Sanchez has come out to try and create an angle to then open up the left-hand side. It's just a horrible moment for the guy. I actually feel quite sorry for him.
Robert Sanchez, consoled him with a kiss, so that was all right,
Yeah, exactly.
That was a nice touch.
And then Poch's substitutions make a big difference. Chukwuemeka and Madueke score both goals really, brilliant, really nice. Cole Palmer with a beautiful assist, so good, and he also grabbed a goal in the first half. And then Noni Madueke with probably his best goal of his Chelsea career. I think he's had a much better last 4 or 5 months than he did his previous sort of first 6 or so. Understandably, a lot of Chelsea players have come into a difficult situation there. But I think the player to probably focus on in this game, we'll give respect of Cole Palmer in a second, but Raheem Sterling, It was a bit of a nightmare.
Really difficult game for him, wasn't it? I mean, although having said that, like
he does create a great goal.
He creates a brilliant goal for Cole Palmer, wins the penalty, but the penalty is just so poor after taking it off Palmer. And I guess that just kind of set things up a little bit. Obviously misses that chance, but then
huge
one-on-one. But then at the same time does then set up Palmer
a minute
or two later. That if Sterling scores that chance, then he doesn't get the opportunity to assist Palmer. So yeah, I mean he's just in a really difficult moment at the moment, Sterling, isn't he? And the threat of Mudryk now coming into form and threatening to take his place in that Chelsea side. I think I wouldn't be surprised if that's getting to him. Also the fact that this summer's Euros is probably his last major tournament opportunity, and at the moment it looks like he's not going to make the squad, which crazy to think, given that 3 years ago Sterling put in one of the all-time great tournament performances for England. So yeah, I do feel for him a little bit. I also think just the amount of abuse that he was getting, it just is kind of unnecessary. He has been in bad form and he did have a bad game, but it's just I don't know. This is and even in the post-match analysis, it was on Match of the Day yesterday. It was for the penalty, it was oh well, he makes a meal of that, a bit dramatic. It was mate, he gets absolutely pummeled from behind. How on earth? If someone comes at you at speed and takes out your legs from behind, how else are you supposed to go down?
Yeah.
It's just
they were it looked a bit silly, didn't it?
Yeah, it was Fatawu literally just cleans him out when he's going for a shot. I just think I still think some of the language or some of the kind of general stuff about Sterling I just find a bit weird, and he was given how he was treated at Stamford Bridge as an opposition player. Sadly, I'm not that surprised that he gets kind of an exacerbated amount of kind of stick when he is a Chelsea player.
What surprised me though is looking up his actual numbers from this season. He's got 8 goals and 10 assists.
Yeah,
in all competitions.
He had a really good start to the year, didn't he?
Yeah.
He has had there's been, I think, the start of the season, and was there about around Christmas time, was it? He had 2 really, really good spells. He can still turn it on, and it's what makes me think that. Do you still just take him to the Euros? Do you still just do it because he can produce, or if he's not starting, is there almost no point in having him on the bench? It's a difficult
question, isn't it? I mean.
What would you do if you were Southgate? For example, Anthony Gordon has made the latest squad despite being injured.
Yeah. Well, Anthony Gordon did then feature against Man City.
Oh, true. Yeah, he did.
I think he isn't as injured right. as people thought. But it's an interesting one with Sterling, isn't it? I think he's probably competing with Rashford for maybe that 23rd slot. And I don't know. It's difficult because Rashford had a better World Cup than Sterling, but Sterling has had a very good Euros, as you correctly point out. It's a difficult one. I'd probably take neither, to be totally honest. I think it would be unfair on the players that would miss out. I think Anthony Gordon's been better than both this year. I think Cole Palmer's been better than both this year.
I mean, Cole Palmer has.
And I think Foden, Saka, I'd even have Maddison over potentially one of those.
Grealish as well.
Grealish, wouldn't necessarily take Grealish. If it comes down to Rashford, Sterling and Grealish, I maybe take Sterling.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'd leave him, I think.
Interesting. I think I'd still take Grealish, to be honest. I think I still would. But I mean, let's get on to Cole Palmer, because I mean, he was just absolutely brilliant once again. 8 shots on the day. The assist for Chukwuemeka is just absolutely.
He's
brilliant.
Involved in the first goal as well. He plays the ball through to Jackson, and I think Jackson's coming into a bit of form as well. Actually, he's really starting to click at Chelsea, and the way that Vestergaard is a really slow centre back, but the way he sort of, Vestergaard looks like he's got him at one stage, and Jackson sort of burst past him and lays a ball onto a plate for Cucurella. It's a really nice goal as well, and it feels like Jackson is so much more comfortable almost doing sort of channel work than sort of back to goal stuff, which is understandable given that a lot of his minutes last year for Villarreal were on the left. But I thought for Leicester, I was a little bit disappointed in Leicester, if I was totally honest. They did only really make one key change from their normal Championship 11 with Vardy dropping out, but I thought Wout Faes, Vestergaard, they made it pretty straightforward for Chelsea at points. Callum Doyle also with a really silly silly challenge on Jackson. It's a difficult one because he is through on goal, but at the same time, and Jackson also makes it with an amazing flick around the corner as well. But I saw Callum Doyle at Sunderland a couple of years ago, and he looked like he's gonna have a big future in the game. But that was just a big mistake. And Leicester, they lost a 12-point lead in the Championship. They're now only 1 point ahead of Ipswich. They do have a game in hand, but Leeds are now ahead of them on goal difference. And it feels like what was looking like it was going to be one of the best Championship teams ever, might not go up automatically, which is a little bit of a concern for them. But Chelsea have a great record in the FA Cup. They haven't won it since 2018, but they're consistently in the semi-finals. They've been brilliant. But they got Man City on that weekend of the 20th of April. That feels like, Man City.
Surely.
Although they did draw earlier this year, 4-4.
Poch has a good record against Pep Guardiola as well, generally speaking. So, I don't know, man. Yeah, like you say, City have failed to beat them twice this season, and Chelsea could have, especially in that 4-4, Chelsea, looked absolutely brilliant points. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really tight game at Wembley. Yep. Especially given, I imagine, the Chelsea support will be more, will probably be louder. We'll maybe go in bigger numbers, or at the very least, we'll be more up for it. Given that City fans are pretty bored of Wembley at this point as an away day. So yes, but shall we move on to
the mighty Cov?
The mighty Cov.
Crazy
what a game
story.
This was, man. What a game this was. A Midlands derby as well.
It was 1-0 at the 80th minute.
Yeah. And then it somehow switched twice after that. First of all, this is going to the 80th minute straight away, but Rayan Aït-Nouri, oh my God, his contribution in this game was absolutely brilliant. The setup for Hugo Bueno, just beautiful. Oh my God, that
whole move from Wolves was just brilliant.
Yeah, and especially given that Coventry were clearly the better team for pretty much that entire game up until then. Wolves were not really in the game. Ellis Sims should have had about 4 goals.
Yeah,
he's having a quietly really good season. I think he's on 14 goals now in all competitions after 2 in this game.
Another former Sunderland player.
Yeah,
it was the weekend of them, lads.
Yeah, absolutely, making decisive, decisive contributions in the FA Cup. Coventry should have been 2 or 3 up by half time. Really, really, really impressive stuff from a side that suffered the kind of disappointment of a loss in the playoff final last year. They are still in with a shout of the playoffs, only 4 points off at the time of recording, but they lost Gyökeres, of course, who's obviously had a brilliant year in Portugal this season.
Now Gustavo, 50 goals and assists for Sporting
50 goals and assists now.
In all competitions.
Absolutely outrageous. Talk of Arsenal, going for him.
Get him to the Emirates. Get him anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
Or stay at Sporting either way, actually. I always find it kind of... Portuguese fans must be annoyed when we always are like, oh, get him to another club. He's doing great at Sporting. They've got a chance of doing a Europa League, Premier League a double, which would be a great achievement. And he's been the key reason behind that.
Yeah. No, for sure, absolutely. But Coventry now, into the semi-finals for the first time since 1987, when they, of course, won it. So, is that a good omen? Who
haven't had
knows?
a side outside the Premier League win it since 1980, which I
believe
was
West Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah. So great stuff from Mark Robbins. I think he was the guy that took them out of League Two. Yeah. They've obviously had to play. They've had to move home a variety of times. They've had ownership struggles. He's consistently built a side that can compete in every division they've been in. And as you say, I didn't expect them to reach an FA Cup semi-final and still be in contention for a playoff, having lost. Harmer and Gyökeres were quite clearly their best players as well. And to lose on penalties in a playoff final, that you think that's going to take it out of you the next season. So massive respect to them. Ellis Sims was in Ross Stewart's shadow when he was at Sunderland, but had a reasonably good goal record. And I think we probably should have made more of an effort to sign him permanently, although Coventry were at the time a better option for him. For Wolves, I don't really want to criticise Wolves because they've actually had some really good results recently. They beat Spurs, they've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Fulham, who are around them in the Premier League table. They're doing this without Hwang, Pedro Neto, Mateus Cunha. But they let go of 2 strikers in January, one of which was Sasa Kaladzic, and now they're playing a 19-year-old, Fraser up front, flanked by Lamina on the left wing and Sarabia on the right. So it's not... They were a little bit silly potentially with their January business. I do get it though, because Sasa Kalajic was struggling to adapt to English football, had that huge injury, maybe wanted to go back to the Bundesliga, so they sort of granted him permission. But it just felt like with Hwang and Cunha starting most games together, they didn't have a lot of depth already in that position. So that was potentially a mistake. But as you say, Ryan Aït-Nouri, what a magnificent season he's had. Yeah. He's brilliant. And he's popping up. He's played on the right wing in the Premier League the week before this. He was playing sort of centrally as a 10 in this game at different points. Like, he's got that kind of Grimaldo, Bayer Leverkusen role of just doing whatever he wants, and he does it really effectively.
Yeah, I love him. He's just got such great flair, hasn't he? So yeah, props to him. But it did feel like Wolves, they just looked a bit rattled in this game at points. Like Jose Sarr rolling out when he shouldn't have been rolling out. Coventry actually kind of pressing them really well at points. But yeah, I mean, obviously shout out Alan Sims. Obviously Bobby Thomas at centre back, also brilliant. 6 tackles and interceptions. Got that assist for Sims as well for his second. So yeah, brilliant stuff from Coventry. I will also say they did win it in 1987, but then they also got beaten, I think, by Sutton United the following year in one of the great FA Cup upsets. So, I
told you this guy loves the FA Cup.
Enjoy it while it lasts. But yeah, I mean, it sets
Wayne Shaw and his pies are coming for you next year.
Shaw, exactly, mate, exactly. I wonder where Wayne Shaw is at. I did see him do some sort of sponsored thing recently.
He's a bit like the Wealdstone Raider, isn't he? He's just like a popular culture moment from about 10 years ago.
Still knocking about. Wealdstone Raider is very much still knocking about as well. I mean, what a reward. Man United at Wembley for Coventry. I mean, I think that's just going to be a great occasion, no matter the result.
Unfortunately, we're both at weddings.
Yeah, I'm at a wedding for the final. Yeah, so in some ways, United losing would be good in that sense, because I will miss the final either way. But no, obviously I want United to beat Coventry. But it will be a fantastic day for Cov, and again, gives them that kind of momentum that you need in the last couple of months of the Championship season as well. Would not be surprised if they crept into those playoff spots. Should we finish off very quickly with Man City?
Yeah.
I mean, easily the most boring game of the week.
Complete non-event.
I mean, I went to the pub to watch this because I thought this was going to be good. Like, I saw City's defensive lineup. I think Isak might have some fun here, but just those 2 deflected goals from Bernardo Silva just killed the game off so early.
31 minutes, I think his second one was put in. And Man City strolled to a 6th successive FA Cup semi-final.
Wow.
Which is pretty remarkable. They only haven't made the semi-finals once under Pep Guardiola. Wigan Athletic beat them.
Mad.
Will Grigg scoring. In the 2017-18 season.
Oh yeah, I remember that was when Kyle Walker had an absolute stinker and Pep stormed off.
Yeah, he did not like that.
But
City, Centurions that year, but couldn't get past Will Grigg's Wigan Athletic. But actually, weirdly, it's really the Carabao Cup that City have sort of dominated really recently. They've actually only won 2 FA Cups under Guardiola, which I was quite surprised about, in 2018-19, and of course last year in the Gundogan final, as I know it by, in 22-23. But this was so one-sided. I mean, the stats said it all. Newcastle, I don't want to go too hard because I'll be really accused of being biased against them, but it has been a really shambolic sort of December onwards period for them. I think they've only won 7 of their last 21 games, and injuries do play a huge role in that. I do not want to underplay that, but I do think they sometimes lack a bit of fight in some of these games. I think they've just been rolled over quite easily. And Eddie Howe did change tactics. He went to a 5 at the back in this game, which I think was the first time he'd done that since his first month in charge. But it really just made no difference. But luckily for Newcastle, they have a fairly, it's not the hardest run of games coming up, but it could be harder at least. West Ham at home, Everton at home, Fulham away, international break, get some players back from injury. Like Trippier's out, Pope's out, Joe Linton's missed massive games, Barnes has missed pretty much the entire season, Tonali's obviously been suspended for the entire year. It's not been an easy campaign for Newcastle. And I don't want to throw the knife in too far, because obviously the injuries are the key reason behind that. But I am just a little bit disappointed in them at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, if they finish in the bottom half, then it will be seen as a massively disappointing season, even no matter what happened last year. I think Newcastle are a top half team. They have the investment of a top half team, and yes, injuries have been an issue, but Eddie Howe has been done a brilliant job there. You expect more from this team, no matter in what the injury problems are. Like West Ham are 7th in the league. We spoke a lot about West Ham on the weekend, although two decent results for them since we spoke about them on Sunday Vibes. But you know, the top half of the Premier, you know, that kind of 6th to 9th position is not filled up with remarkable teams this year. Like Newcastle should be in there, and Chelsea are going for those positions as well. So yes. If they do need to kick into gear after the international break. Anything else you want to speak about?
No, I
guess shout out Fulham for beating Spurs 3-0.
Yes, we could have talked about that. We just thought the FA Cup was so epic this weekend. Yeah. We wanted to give it our full attention. But yeah, great result for Fulham. Quite an even game for long stretches, and then Fulham just really sort of came away with it in the second half. Rodrigo Muniz.
Yeah,
what a run of
star! What a star!
What a star! Looks like he should have been scoring for his entire life. As in, he's got all the physical gifts, but you know, this is his first year of really sort of doing the business. So full respect to him, filling that Mitrovic-shaped hole. Yeah,
absolutely. I actually took him out of my fantasy team on a free hit, so he will be back for the next game. But I took him out for Chris Wood, who did score, to be fair, for Forest.
Okay.
But yeah,
did the free hit come off?
Not massively. I had Castagnet on the bench. I had Bassi on the bench. I had Leno on the bench.
Sounded like you needed a free hit and a bench boost.
So it sounded a bit free hit and a bench boost. I just basically thought that Tottenham were going to win, and they didn't. And I also thought that West Ham, that Kudus.
I think the whole world captained Son this weekend.
Yeah, I did. Didn't come off. But let us know what you guys, you know, your FPL mistakes this weekend in the comments below. But yeah, that's all we have time for today. Go and watch Sunday Vibes if you haven't done so already. We talked about the thing holding your club back this season. If you're not subscribed to Football Daily already, please do so, and we will catch you later in the week.